The moment we laid eyes on that farmhouse, it felt like we'd stumbled onto the set of a Stephen King movie. You know the type: idyllic rural town, surrounded by endless fields of corn, where the only sounds are the occasional mooing cow and the distant rumble of a tractor. Perfect, right? Well, let me tell you, perfection can be deceiving. It all started when we decided to leave the chaos of city life behind and chase the dream of a simpler existence. A cozy farmhouse in the heart of the Midwest seemed like the answer to our prayers. We packed up our lives, the kids and the dog, and headed straight into the heart of small-town America. The farmhouse sat at the end of a winding dirt road, surrounded by acres of green. It looked charming in that run-down, fixer-upper kind of way. The real estate agent, a friendly woman with a penchant for oversharing, assured us it had character. Little did she mention that the character came with a side of eerie history. The first few days were uneventful. We unpacked boxes, explored the town, and met the neighbors, a bunch of friendly folks with that quintessential Midwestern charm. There was Mr. Thompson, the farmer with a perpetual straw hat, and Mrs. Johnson, who baked the best apple pies this side of the Mississippi. Everything seemed perfect until the night the whispers began. I was lying in bed, drifting into that sweet spot between wakefulness and sleep when I heard them. Soft, barely audible whispers that seemed to dance on the edge of my consciousness. At first, I dismissed it as the wind rustling through the cornfields, but as the nights went on, the whispers grew louder, more insistent. My husband, being the rational guy he is, blamed it on the old house settling. "Old bones make noise," he'd say, trying to ease my growing unease. Yet, every night, those whispers persisted, weaving through the air like ghostly tendrils. Then came the shadows. Dark, fleeting shapes that darted across the periphery of my vision. I'd catch glimpses of them in the hallway, disappearing as soon as I turned my head. I blamed it on my imagination, on the stress of the movie, but deep down, I knew something was off. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, our youngest, little Emily, came running into the house, eyes wide with terror. She claimed to have seen a figure standing at the edge of the cornfield, watching her play. My heart skipped a beat as I listened to her shaky account of the shadowy presence. The unease settled into our home like a permanent resident. We began to research the history of the farmhouse, asking around the town for any clues. That's when we stumbled upon the town's well-kept secret, a dark history that sent shivers down our spines. The farmhouse had once belonged to the Johnsons, the sweet elderly couple who used to live there. Rumor had it that they were involved in some sort of mysterious cult, conducting strange rituals in the dead of night. The townsfolk spoke in hushed tones about the disappearances, people who had moved into the farmhouse and vanished without a trace. As the pieces of the puzzle fell into place, we realized that we were merely the latest players in a twisted game that had been going on for decades. The whispers, the shadows, the strange occurrences, they were all part of the farmhouse's dark legacy. Determined to get to the bottom of things, we delved into the town's archives, uncovering newspaper clippings and dusty records. The disappearances were real, and they followed a pattern that sent chills down our spines. Every family that had moved into the farmhouse experienced the same series of eerie events before vanishing without a trace. Armed with this newfound knowledge, we confronted the townsfolk. As we questioned them about the Johnsons and the farmhouse's dark past, their expressions turned cold, and they evaded our inquiries with practiced skill. It became clear that the town had collectively decided to keep the secrets buried, locked away in the dusty corners of its history. Undeterred, we continued our investigation, reaching out to the few families who had managed to escape the clutches of the farmhouse. Their stories were hauntingly similar: the whispers, the shadows, the feeling of being watched. They all spoke of an otherworldly force that seemed to feed on the fear and despair of those who dared to call the farmhouse home. As the days turned into weeks, the farmhouse seemed to come alive with malevolence. Objects moved on their own, doors slammed shut without warning, and the whispers evolved into guttural, incomprehensible murmurs that echoed through the halls. Our once idyllic dream home had transformed into a nightmare. Desperation set in as we realized that we were running out of time. The town, with its collective silence, seemed complicit in the malevolent forces that plagued us. We considered leaving, abandoning the farmhouse and its dark secrets, but something held us back. A gnawing curiosity mixed with a stubborn refusal to be victims. One stormy night, as lightning streaked across the sky and thunder rumbled in the distance, we gathered in the dimly lit living room. Armed with candles and a makeshift Ouija board, we attempted to communicate with whatever entity lurked within the walls of the farmhouse. The planchette moved with an otherworldly force, spelling out cryptic messages and revealing the true extent of the darkness that had consumed the Johnsons and those who came before us. The farmhouse, it seemed, was a conduit for malevolent spirits, a gateway to a realm beyond our understanding. As the night wore on, the atmosphere in the room grew thick with tension. Shadows danced along the walls, and the whispers reached a crescendo. It was then that we glimpsed the apparitions of the previous occupants, the lost souls trapped in a purgatory of their own making. With a surge of determination, we decided to break the cycle. Armed with knowledge and a newfound sense of purpose, we performed a ritual to cleanse the farmhouse of its malevolent energy. The air crackled with an otherworldly energy as we recited incantations and banished the lingering spirits. As the last words left our lips, a profound stillness settled over the farmhouse. The shadows receded, the whispers faded, and an eerie calm replaced the previous chaos. It was as if the very fabric of the farmhouse had exhaled, releasing the hold it had on us. In the aftermath, the town seemed to awaken from its slumber. The townsfolk, once bound by a pact of silence, began to share their own encounters with the supernatural. The farmhouse's dark history was no longer a buried secret, but a cautionary tale whispered in the corners of the local diner. We chose to leave the farmhouse behind, its walls now free of the malevolent forces that had plagued it for decades. The town, too, underwent a transformation as it confronted its own demons. The darkness that had lurked beneath the surface began to dissipate, replaced by a newfound sense of unity and openness. As we drove away from that once charming farmhouse, I couldn't help but glance back at the silhouette against the setting sun. The shadows were gone, the whispers silenced, but the memories lingered.
Well folks, it's been a pleasure sharing these crazy experiences with you on Warped Whispers. If our spooky tales hit the right spot, consider throwing a like and smashing that subscribe button. Really means a lot to this old storyteller, and it'll keep the stories rolling. Till we meet again, stay cool, stay curious, and keep those stories close.